Today we sit down with Dr. Ben Stickle to talk about the scourge of porch pirates out there swiping our packages. Ben is the leading authority on package theft statistics, trends, and research. But he doesn't keep it all academic. Ben also works with companies and organizations to find ways to make our deliveries and our packages safer. In part one, we talked about who porch pirates are, how do they operate, what's their MO, and today we're going to learn what can we do really to keep our packages out of the hands of porch pirates. Do you recommend that people do report package theft to the police or not?
Oh, that's a hard one. The cop inside of me says, yes, report it. The other part of the cop inside of me says, nobody cares. I think it's kind of a really up to your preference. If you live in a state that is actually tracking package theft, as in they have a code for it, then I highly encourage it, just so we have some idea of how often this happens. Because that's really important. But I also recognize that in many locations and many jurisdictions, it's hard enough, as you just said, to get down to the delivery area to receive your package, let alone call a police officer, or wait for them to show up, or wait for them to call you back, get your receipt, send it to them, start the investigation. And this is even amplified, if you think about it. Let's say you have a doorbell camera of some type, and you actually have an image of the thief. That's really fantastic. But we're not really quite to what we see on TV as far as police's capability to run that through some facial recognition. So even if you have that information, which is very beneficial, it can be very difficult to follow up and actually make an arrest. But at the same time, and again, I experienced this with a slightly different issue, which was vehicle break-ins. What I would find is that 1 out of, let's just say, 20 people would call. And I wish that I had known about some of the others happening over the last couple of days, so I could have been aware that this was an issue. So there is value in certainly calling the police, so they're aware that it's a problem. Especially if they get multiple complaints in a neighborhood, so they can actually do some type of response. So, if you're in a position where you have an opportunity in time to call the police and let them know, I think it's a good thing to do. If it slips away and you can't, and that's the way it rolls sometimes, and we understand that as well.
And I'm happy to hear that, because I've recommended when people have asked me, I'm like, you're probably not going to get anything solved. Like, your hope isn't that you're going to recover your item, but you might give law enforcement a heads up that this is happening in a certain area. And then they can have eyes on that area and know there's something going on here. It's being targeted, and therefore you might be able to prevent others from having the same issue that you did.
Sure. And if you report it and 3 of your neighbors do out of the 25 that are victims, and they catch the person, let's just say, for example, then they could potentially charge with 3 crimes rather than just 1. So, there are advantages to doing that and not making the police go look for victims, which can be hard as well.
Yeah. And is there a way to know if your state tracks package theft or not?
That's a very good question. I'm actually working on some research on that at the moment. Not off the top of my head can I tell you. Okay. I think there's about 7 or 8 states who passed some type of legislation about package theft. And most of those, it's a new separate criminal code, as in a different statute. In a couple, they tweaked a little bit. Most states follow a pattern of mail theft. And that is very specific to being a federal employee who's delivering mail to a mailbox. And it could include a package, but it also mainly has to be USPS marked mail. So it doesn't include FedEx, Amazon, UPS, things like that. So that's one of the weaknesses of the laws as they currently exist is again, they were made for what the issue was, which was stealing letters, and that's really shifted.
What can I do to not get my packages swiped? What can help the odds of me being a victim?
All right. So again, I think this comes down to opportunity and a little bit of like a home, risk assessment. So more than just have you been a victim, right? What are the chances of you becoming a victim? Well, receiving any package, obviously, your chance increases. If you receive a lot of packages on a regular basis, obviously that increases your risk. Just as if you were worried about getting in a fight and you were in a location where there were lots of fights, if you're there a lot, it's more likely to happen. Same thing with packages. So the more that you order and have delivered to your home, the more likely it is that you'll be a victim. We know that there's a lot more crime on streets that have a grid system rather than a cul-de-sac. And we actually design neighborhoods and cul-de-sacs now to help prevent crime. And the reason for that, again, goes back to opportunity. If you live on a street that has lots of vehicular or pedestrian traffic, your chances of being a victim of many different types of crime actually increases. I, thankfully, although this wasn't a key reason I chose the house, live near the end of a cul-de-sac. And one thing I learned during the pandemic is I got really good at knowing who generally is down there. So my desk window, I could just kind of see out of the corner of my eye, the window, and I would be like, I don't know that car. And I'd look to see who it was. And that's a real thing. So if you live on a busy street, lots of people driving by, there's more people who are going to potentially see that you have a package sitting there unattended. And it's a little less likely for someone to be circling the neighborhood, going down every cul-de-sac, looking for a package to steal. So really understanding and evaluating your risks is very important for how you decide to respond. As far as behavior goes, this is a really key one sometimes, is what are you actually willing to do to try and prevent a package being stolen? If you have a very expensive item that you're going to purchase, such as a tablet or a computer or something like that, I would highly recommend that you ship it to somewhere where you will be or somewhere it is secure. So if you have a neighbor, a friend, or a family member nearby who's willing to collect your packages, that's a great option. If you live somewhere near a parcel delivery locker system that you pointed out, that you can drive by, pull your phone out, scan your barcode, and retrieve your item. If it's especially a high value item, that's a great way, to control that. Especially, real quick aside, a lot of electronics who have lithium batteries are required by federal law to have a sticker that says as much. And so what we're finding out is a lot of thieves will walk up to a house, and if they see an item that has a sticker, they know it's electronics, and so they steal it. And you can't get around that. That's the law. So, you have to think of things like that.
Protect your packages with Cove, sponsor of our latest package theft report. Cove is committed to keeping package thieves away from your parcels. Before you order one more gift, find out how easy it is to let Cove protect everything from your front porch to the back deck.
Now, so that's a behavioral aspect. The other behavioral aspect is just get your packages if you're home. I wrote a paper, a very short paper early in the pandemic, looking at package theft during the pandemic. And I pointed out that even though we're home more, we're occupied. So especially, early on, my kids were doing school in another room. I was on a Zoom like this. My wife was teaching downstairs, and we're all busy. So yeah, I know the doorbell rang. I know the package is there, but I completely forgot about it. And then my routine, which is where I'd come home from work every day, I'd grab my package and go inside, that was disrupted too. And so I found that during the pandemic, I left more packages overnight on my porch than I did other times. So just getting that package as soon as you can is really important. So those are some of the behavioral things. From a few other ideas are, again, really important. If you are at a medium to low risk, if that makes sense, for package theft. Say you live at a cul-de-sac and you're like 50 feet off the road and you get 2 packages a week. It might be a good idea to leave a small sign for delivery personnel that asks them to place the package like behind a plant you have on your front porch, or even if you have some type of decorative box, even if it doesn't have a lid. And what this does is it reduces, again, the opportunity because no one sees the package there. These are cheap, inexpensive, and if easy to do, many delivery drivers will be happy. In fact, you may notice, if you're watching, some of mine do this anyway. I have about 1.5 feet that extends from one side of my house, and often the package is tucked in that corner. I can see it from inside, and you could see it from outside, but it's more difficult. That's a really good thing to do. Now, for those who are receiving lots of packages, for those who are at a medium to high risk, or you're just wanting to make sure that all this is done, above board, I really do suggest some type of porch box that is lockable. So I do some work for Delivery Safe. They make a very nice item. Again, it's a steel box that's set on your front porch. There's a code. You put the code in your instructions for delivery. Delivery personnel comes, they type in the code, the box opens. When they close it, it locks back. And when you come home, you can get all of your items. The advantage to that is it solves some of the other issues we have at that last foot of the delivery, right? So animals aren't going to get in there. It's not going to matter if it's cold or rainy. It's not going to get blown over by the wind. And especially if you're having groceries delivered, this one by Delivery Safe is insulated, and you can add some cooling so you don't have your groceries spoil. So if you are someone who engages in lots of delivery and you have medium to high risk, I highly suggest something like that.
Video cameras, Ring doorbells, video doorbells. We first had high hopes that this was going to be a big deterrent, right? But we capture all these videos of people going up there and just sneaking in and snatching the thing. So I think it's interesting that, again, I guess there's a weird risk assessment involved in this whole thing, this whole package theft situation. And I guess people just figured out, you're probably not going to call the cops. You're probably not going to recognize me. No one else is going to get me on their camera, so we can't compare things. So I'm just going to kind of pull up my hood and whatever, and go for it, I guess.
Yeah, interestingly, yes and no. So, cameras are wonderful tools. And we have one, okay? So I'm not anti-doorbell camera at all. What I am is, again, urging people who are listening to this to be realistic. If you're purchasing a camera to prevent your package from getting stolen, that's probably the wrong intent. If you're purchasing your camera to perhaps dissuade someone from approaching your front porch, that's the right attitude. If you're purchasing your camera to, let your kid when they get home from school in the front door, or many of the values of that, that's a great idea. And it may have some ability to discourage especially package theft. But unfortunately, in the videos that I reviewed, and now again, my sample is biased because if they weren't captured on video, then I don't know about them,
right?
At least in the first study. But I think only in 5% of all crimes did anyone try to hide their face. So I was really shocked by this. I thought, this will be a good variable to search for when we were looking at all these videos. And so only in just a few cases did anyone, put their hand in front of their face, or have a hoodie. Now we didn't really count sunglasses because usually these were bright days, et cetera. But we were shocked. People didn't try to hide their faces at all. Even the ones who looked directly at the camera, they walk up, they look at it, they look at the box, they look back at the camera, and walk away. So it didn't seem to really, prohibit someone from taking it. One of the things that I suggest is, a concept that I like to call security layering. And that's the idea, again, based on your risk, that you have multiple methods to prevent it. So again, if you're looking for, a method to prevent package theft, and you're at that medium to high range, like I said, then definitely keep the package out of sight, lock it up if you can. A camera will help, right? You're adding layers of protection. It's like having a locked front door and maybe a deadbolt and a regular lock, plus a light on at night, plus a security alarm, right? When you start taking and adding things to it, the safer that you become. And so that's one thing I suggest. If you think you're really going to have an issue with package theft, or you have, start thinking about all the things that you can do to make sure that you're getting the best effect out of those devices and technology.
Some of our favorite doorbell cameras, like Vivint, a home security company, just last year, I think it was, released a standalone doorbell, so you don't have to get the whole system, and it hoots at the person. So they have a red light that's like, hey, we're watching you, and it starts spinning, and it's like, hoo-hoo, and it chirps at them. And the videos that Vivint shows you, of course, people are just scrambling and startled. And do you think adding those extra features to doorbell cameras helps in that potential dissuading?
I think so. I've seen those commercials as well. I've not tested one, and I've not seen data on those. But again, looking at what we know about other crimes, So originally, I think when cameras started becoming popular, and I'm talking like 15, 20 years ago, they were seen as like a guardian. So when we talk about guardianship in criminology, we're talking about something or someone who's kind of like watching. It doesn't have to be an armed guard. It can be anyone. A neighbor looking out their window is considered a guardian and tends to dissuade crime. I tend to think, and this is my personal thought, that over time, cameras are everywhere. They're so ubiquitous, they're so used that we all just ignore them now. I mean, I remember some cities that used to have like flashing blue lights on them when they put a camera up in a neighborhood. Now there's 50 cameras in that neighborhood and no one knows or cares. So I think moving the camera from being just, well, it's there, I ignore it, to then some type of actual guardianship, even if it's artificial intelligence. And so I've wanted to look at some of those products because I've been curious how they work. Is it just if someone walks up? Does it make a difference if they run? Does it make a difference can it tell if there's a package on your porch? And then if that package is moved, then it sets an alarm off. If it does those things, even artificially, it gives the appearance as though someone is actively watching, and I think has the potential to really dissuade, some level of crime. The only challenge to this, again, going back to the original study, I think it was 70 to 75% of people just casually walked up to the door, picked up the package, and then they ran away. So they were very slow, leisurely to walk up, and then quick to exit. So again, this is where you have to kind of marry, at least I hope, research, policing, crime prevention with technology. Because if they're waiting for AI to say, set an alarm if someone runs up, you're going to miss a lot of crime. So how do you get that in between? So there's lots of questions there. I think there's good opportunities in the future to develop these technologies and these skills to make it more than just a passive, here's a camera, and to make it interactive.
Thanks again to Dr. Ben Stickle for sitting down with us and helping us get a handle on what porch pirates are up to and how we can all steer clear of them. You can get more from him on his website, which is linked below, and we've got more videos right here about how to thwart porch pirates and what you can do if you actually do end up getting one of your packages swiped. You can also read all the specifics on how to make a claim with different carriers in our complete guide on safewise.com. And to make sure that you never miss a new video or another awesome safety chat like this one, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Until next time, keep those packages out of sight and stay safe.